Hello class, my name is Matthew Perez and this is my Week 5 multimedia discussion video titled Public Employee Union Developments. So to get a better understanding of public unions, I decided to look at a union that's based here in Southern California, and that's Labor International Union in North America, also known as LIUNA, and their local 777. So this union represents 12,000 public employees, and it includes different positions from food service workers to nurses, custodians, 911 dispatchers, and courtroom assistants. So I wanted to learn how LIUNA 777 was impacted on the court case of Janus versus AFS-CME, and so I decided to call the union's office, and I spoke to a lady there, and she told me that the impact was changed everything that how they operate for new hires, that they had to redo the form that they filled out, giving them an option to opt out, and they had to mail out letters to all existing union members informing them that they now have the option to opt out. So she said that the result of that was there was a decrease in enrollment within the union, but she said everything else on the daily operations remained the same. Only difference was for initial employees, they had the option to opt out. So to get a better understanding of the public unions, I looked at a recent article from 2018. It was interesting because the article was titled Worker Voice in Union Revitalization. This article looked at a union called Services Employees International Union, also known as SEIU, Local 1, which has 50,000 members, and it was primarily based in Chicago, but recently it's grown to different Midwest regions such as Indianapolis, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Detroit, St. Louis, and Houston. And the employees were similar to LIUNA in that they represented janitors, security guards, and maintenance workers. So it talked about how public unions have been decreasing in popularity throughout the last couple decades, and how this union in particular noticed that and decided that they needed to restructure the way that they form and organize. And so they restructured, and as a result there was a reduction in expenditures, and it actually put the union in a better position. The conclusion of this article discusses how that this may have been just a specific scenario, and their model may not actually work in other unions. Now let's look at the 2011 Wisconsin Act 10 bill article that I found, which was written in 2018, so it was roughly 7 years after, and the article wanted to look at the impact that the bill had on government agencies within Wisconsin. And what's interesting about the findings of the article is that they actually concluded that even though 7 years have passed, it's still too early to know what the long-term effects of Act 10 will be. But it did describe 6 different items that I was unaware of. I didn't realize that the Act changed the way that the unions could bargain. They couldn't no longer bargain for step increases for individual positions. They also couldn't bargain for mandatory breaks, paid leave, and pay scales. And it also eliminated the ability for governments to pay for health and retirement benefits, which also meant that it doubled employees' out-of-pocket costs for healthcare and retirement benefits. And it's something else that should be noted is that public safety employees were exempt from these changes, which means that police and fire unions were able to keep their existing collective bargaining rights. So how does this article relate to the recent course material? So the book describes different acts throughout the years that strengthened the public unions. And so it's interesting that this bill in 2011 actually weaken the leverage that public union employees have, which also relates to the court hearing for Janus versus AFS-CME. and how that also weakened leverage of public unions. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all have a great week.